Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Spawn Room Podcast, where we talk about all things esports and gaming. I am your host, Rachel Olsen Cooper. Many of you know me as Crunk or CrunkWJ from the internet spaces. So the topic that we're going to be discussing today, I was originally going to wrap into a project I'm putting together based around women in esports and gaming. I'm still planning on touching on this subject, but some current events over the last month that happened on gaming Twitter just about a week after the Halo Championship Series happened here in Fort Worth made me realize that this subject really does deserve its own space. I do want to kind of warn everybody in the audience that the conversations I'm having today with the two amazing members of the LGBTQIA plus community might be a little hard, and I will always champion mental health in anything that I create. So if anyone listening or watching feels that they need to pause and step away, please do so. These conversations are going to be intellectual discussions about the transgender community in gaming spaces, but everyone has their limits, and I don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable. So with me today is Janessa Jane, who also goes by LadyJanessa on Twitch. She is a transgender content creator from Australia. Welcome to the show, and thank you so much for coming by to talk with me today.
Thank you. Thank you for welcoming me in. It's great to be here.
Yeah. Great. So first, if you can go ahead and just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit of what you're about.
Well, as you said, I'm LadyJanessa. I stream on Twitch. I stream games like Hunt Showdown and Destiny 2. I'm both transgender, but I'm also neurodivergent, and I try and create a positive attitude both in the way people play and showing that everyone can be like welcome in a space. Even when I get upset, I try and turn my attitude into positivity for everyone watching, and generally a lot of people end up wanting to come play with me because they realize, oh, I can actually have a more fun time playing because I'm happier just having fun. And
I love that.
So my whole energy is about you can be good and happy at the same time, and you don't have to win to be good.
Yeah, I love that. I love that because and a lot of people forget that gaming is just that. It's a game. That you're allowed to have happy emotions when playing a game.
Yeah, you don't have to be stressed all the time.
Right, exactly. So when did you start your gaming journey? And at the time, were you already identifying as a female whenever you started gaming?
I was not identifying as a female when I started gaming. I started gaming around about 10 years old, maybe a couple of years beforehand, with things like the N64, Nintendo 64, with Banjo-Kazooie and Super Mario 64, literally, and Tetris. I played a lot of Tetris with the Game Boy when I got my hands on that. I didn't start identifying myself as transgender until roughly I was about 19 to 21, around that era. So about 10 years ago.
Okay.
Roughly.
Okay. So then, before you transition, did you find that playing games online with others was easier or harder because you weren't living your true self yet?
So it was easier to a degree in some areas, but some areas it was more difficult because just when you're interacting with people, when people see you as a guy, because there's that weird rule of everyone on the internet is just a guy, no matter what you say.
Right.
And it's so a lot of people would just treat me fine and everything like that and treat me like that. And I'm someone who I've done a lot of raiding in Destiny 2, and I've taught raids. I used to spend it was about 50 to 60 raids per week I were teaching in Destiny 2.
Oh, okay.
That's a lot of raids.
Yeah, it is.
I would literally teach 4 people at a time. So 2/3 of the fire team were just people who had no idea what they're doing. Take them through. And when when I hadn't come out yet, people were more inclined to listen to me. But then I noticed when I came out as transgender and I changed my name and put lady in front of my name and things like that and changed my name. Because originally my gamer tag was Deadshot, and then I changed it to Miss Deadshot. And I put the Miss there and I started acting and presenting. All of a sudden, sometimes what I was saying to some people didn't seem as valid. And to some people who had known me for a while, all of a sudden, all the stuff that they knew they could get from me accurate, they dismissed. So there was the times where people would find when I was male and it was easier. But then when I was being male, because I was wanting to talk to like women about certain things and products or anything like that, it would come off as more creepy in that case. So then I would be pushed back times. But then when I came out, it all reversed, where
Yeah.
all of a sudden it was accepted, but then the other
But
side
then
wasn't
people weren't
accepting.
listening.
Yeah.
Wow. I never thought about, even in the space of, trying to talk to a female about female things,
Mm,
feelings and emotions and, what they're going through in their lives,
yeah.
that some may see that coming from a male is
Mm,
creepy. And I never thought about it that way. And that's so interesting that it was like the tables turned.
yeah. Because it's an interesting thing is a lot of people realize like a lot of women want men to be open with their feelings and things like that.
Hmm.
But because then most women are still typically raised as men are meant to be this strong and everything. At the moment they do, they look weird. They look weak. They don't look like the strong ideal man. They look like someone who isn't right. Is creepy. They're doing something different.
Yeah.
And so if a guy tries to do that, they end up being shunned for it when
Yeah.
you really shouldn't. So you don't realize that until you start being able to actually visualize and see how both genders are treated being transgender. Hmm.
Wow. Wow. That's it. That's so like, there's small little things I think in life that you don't think about
Hmm.
until you see the other side of that. And just hearing that does now make me think about, how I would interact, with a male and how I would interact with a
Hmm.
transgender, that it really shouldn't matter. That
Yeah.
I should be able to interact, the same exact way as I do, with anybody else. So
Yeah.
that's such a mind-blowing thing to think about. It really is.
Hmm. Because yeah, a lot of times people unconsciously change how they act towards everyone. They don't mean to. It's like you want
Yeah.
to treat everyone the same, but everyone in their own way needs to be talked to differently because people receive information differently. So you
Right.
don't realize you change that much, but then sometimes you change more than what you're realizing, depending on situations and circumstance.
Wow.
And so, like, because of the way you're raised, you don't even realize sometimes the circumstances that you're changing.
Yeah. Yeah. So So did you find then, and I wasn't going to ask this until a little bit later, but I do want to ask it now because we're talking about it. Did you find
Mhm.
that your community flipped as well?
My community was streaming. If anything, um, there were like a few people. So the community I built in my stream, a few people who were like, they was like, I'm not sure how I feel about this, but they weren't
Hmm.
discouraging and everything like that. Most people, because they realize the type of way I say, because I've always been that way for like over six. I've been streaming for about 6 to 10 years as well.
Hmm.
Now I'm doing all sorts of other stuff, and everyone's realized I've always been about that, and I've been working hard to always be this positive influence. So most
Right.
people are like, no, like she's always direct with what she thinks and open, and she means what she says. And so they took most people took the time to understand first, and then just
Mhm.
accepted. And my community ended up growing bigger and more of it because people were more inclined to see what I was about, and then because they saw like, oh, this happened, and then they came in, they're like, oh, they're like, I actually like this person. And I was like, oh, cool, more
Yeah.
people.
Wow.
It
That's
does,
that's awesome though.
yeah. So I actually had a really good reception there. Yeah.
Good. Good. Yeah, because it was like, why you talked about, how just your
Mm.
raid teams and stuff changed. Like, it kind of made me think, well, I wonder if that community changed, but I'm glad that it changed for a positive and not
Yeah,
for
it
a
was really
negative.
good.
Yeah. So while I was doing a little bit of research on this topic, I had found some interesting articles that talked about how people would use games to allow them to feel like their true selves. Specifically, games where a character could be created around themselves. So, like RPG games, games like Roblox. I mean, really, you could even say games like Destiny. Picking the
Yeah.
the male over the female. So, did you find that gaming helped you with your transition to allow you to feel more like yourself in that perspective?
Yes, and before I even fully realized that I had gender dysphoria and was transgender, I used to just always have whenever I created characters in games, I lean towards female.
Hmm.
Oh, after a while in my head, because you have moments where obviously you're confused because of gender dysphoria and everything, and so you're trying to rationalize what you've been brought up with. No, I meant to be this and everything like that. So I would rationalize, oh, I'm just doing female characters because smaller hitboxes, things like that,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and but majority of the games actually don't do smaller hitboxes. It's like it's a rare thing. It's mainly
Right.
FPSs. Um, and so I realized I was doing that, and I kept designing women that would be similar to me in structure, especially when
Mm.
I had more control over like features. It would be more that, or more how I would visualize myself.
Yeah.
Oh, and I noticed I did that more and more. And then when I came to the process and when saw people and I had the realization of what I am and everything, I realized I went even more in depth with character creation afterwards, making it more like how I visualize myself.
Yeah.
And so I've always had this leaning of just creating who I am in my character and everything like that. And as I said, I'm a neurodivergent creator, so I'm autistic, and autistic have a weird way of putting the way we express ourselves is through other
Mm-hmm.
mediums because we're not good
Mm-hmm.
at expressing emotions. So being
Right.
able to express myself through that medium of gaming or like music or things like that, it's really helpful. So
Yeah.
gaming is really helpful for me to express myself.
And I never thought of gaming that way until I read these articles that, when you're going through character creation, a lot of the times, like with me, I'm just like kind of creating a character that might look like me, that I'm not really like thinking, about
Mm,
what it is that they like actually look like. I'm just kind of like, okay, I have short hair. We'll make them with short hair. Okay. I like this hair color, not really putting that thought into it. And it's funny that you talk about like the hitboxes, because when you talk to any cis males, that they're always like, oh yeah, we just created a female because it's a smaller hitbox, or
yeah,
any sort of over sexualization as well, of a character,
yeah.
because, that's, might be somebody that, an image that they want. And I never thought about it in the way of, this might actually just be somebody that is trying to find their true selves. And it was very
Mm,
eye opening reading these articles from multiple different transgender women saying, especially Fable 2. Fable 2 was the one that kept coming up multiple times.
I've heard
But
about
even,
that. Yeah,
yeah, I never, and especially because that's like the Fable that everybody hates. But I guess like from what I
shouldn't
was
say that.
reading, from what I read, there's an ending that you can do in the post game
Mm,
that allows you to drink a potion that you can change your gender. And I
mm.
guess that was like kind of an eye opener for a lot of people. But then there was another that used Roblox as an example. And I was like, Roblox, really? And then I thought about it. I was like, I mean, really, you could do it as any character
Mm.
creation game could really help somebody,
Good.
find themselves emotionally and mentally.
Hmm. Yeah, because
So I,
it's just it helps someone captures what they feel in their heart. So yeah,
yeah, yeah. So, so I do want to discuss what I referenced to in the tweet that had happened in the gaming community, and it was seen by I think like 4.5 million people. I think the last that I looked. So I hope that you have seen it. If not, I am going
yeah,
to read it verbatim. But
yep,
so basically, what happened is that a cis female member of the Halo community, she was decently well known. She was a
yeah,
shoutcaster. She would go to a lot of events. She was in a couple of well known esports teams. So she's basically known. She was putting together a ladies Halo tournament in her Discord. It started to gain some traction. And so on September the 12th, she had tweeted, quote, I am building out channels in my Discord for the lady scrims on Saturday. I love and value all people. And as a Christian, I believe God created people in his image as male and female, with a quote from Genesis. Therefore, I will not be allowing trans players to participate, end quote. Now, this had a lot of people in an absolute uproar whenever it
oh,
happened. But the thing that it surprised me the most, knowing how toxic the gaming culture can be, was that a lot of the comments were filled with gaming is for everyone type of responses. So whenever you saw that tweet
yes.
and you read that tweet as a trans woman, what was your reaction?
Well, before I just reply, I do want to say that as the reactions to the comments, one of the comments which actually caught my eye was the U.S. military responded, because there's a lot of gamers in the U.S. military, and they
Mm-hmm.
posted an image saying gaming is for everyone, regardless of if you're transgender or not. So it's like, if the U.S. military is kind of standing up for transgender people, against you. That says a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it
But
does.
as someone saying that when I saw it and saw all of the things that came around and the different comments and everything like that, because unfortunately when you're a transgender, because of stuff you search and everything, or everything starts like customizing your search to what you want, so you start seeing more of everything. So I see a lot of sometimes good stuff about transgender and bad stuff, but I'm also someone who I also religiously search the opposite of what I think, because
Mm-hmm.
it changes your search results. Also, when you search the opposite, so you actually get stuff which you don't agree with, but it helps you see something from a different sector. So when I saw that, I did the same thing of just like taking the time to investigate what kind of person she is, and
Mm-hmm.
is this meant in a hostile way? And I could
Right.
understand how she feels and how she feels from her community, and I get what she's feeling, but at the same time, I was like, you're like, it's great to have this space for ladies. It is. It's
Mm-hmm.
phenomenal. Or you don't have to include women. It is so lovely to do that. But at the same time, as everyone's like, gaming is for everyone. You don't have to restrict it to one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm more than happy to. I would be happy enough to be a part of something like that. But at the same time, like, it's you don't have to say. You could just say like female presenting or something like that instead of trans.
Right.
Like, and so basically, they're like, because I know I'm not accepted some places because I haven't done voice training yet, and I've been learning. I've only just started learning it,
Mm-hmm.
and so a lot of people will not allow me in their spaces because I sound too masculine, and
Mm. Yeah.
and I'm not as hurtful as that can be. I'm like, no, I do understand because your ears are hearing something else, so your
Right.
brain's struggling to change it back. So to me, it's like, if you need something like that, that's fine. If because at the end of the day, me not being able to present that, like I'm sometimes you're restricted with what you can do, but
Mm-hmm.
like I understand that. Hey, to me, I'm giving your brain the wrong signal at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm So they could have done that and gone like, "Hey, this is for women and female presenting because that way." Everything, but the fact that they
Right.
specifically said no trans women, and
Right.
they made an effort to write it as exclusatory instead of, "Hey, we would prefer this." If they wrote it as a preference, I think it would have been more accepted. But they wrote it very exclusatory, like as
Yes.
if it to point someone out of and like exclude them particularly, which
Yeah.
like I'm fine with you not wanting to include someone, but you don't have to make it sound like you're intentionally excluding them because of that specific reason. Because it sounds like you're trying to be a bigot,
Mm-hmm.
which, from what I understood from where she's not the kind of person to be a bigot, but she is like she's just has her views and she knows how she feels.
Mm-hmm.
So she
And
seems like a
and
lovely
sometimes
person, but just yeah,
yeah. Sorry. And I know that sometimes it is hard, especially with people who do have it, especially at like a religious level, to even try to, make them understand, the viewpoint. And it did seem like that she was receptive to the people who pointed out you could have said this in a different way to make it seem like you weren't trying to be a bigot, like you said. And there was a lot of people that said you could have said it like this, you could have said it like that. And it did seem like that in retrospect, she internalized that, as if,
yeah,
I will try not to do this again. And I had personally kind of hoped that in a small way, A, that she would have deleted the tweet, which she didn't, which surprises me. But
mm,
B, that would have been the last time. And
yeah.
I had gone back to her Twitter just a few days ago after kind of all the
Oh,
madness had finally stopped. And there was another tweet. And
oh, what is
this
that? I didn't
one,
know about that.
yeah. And this one was not as friendly. And let me pull it up real quick because I actually think that I did have it pulled up. That
Hmm.
it was a video that had linked back to the LCS, so the League of Legends Championship Series. They did a video because of their Game Changers format. So League of
Hmm.
Legends and Valorant both have a thing called Game Changers, which is for women and marginalized communities to be
Hmm.
able to have a safe space to play both League of Legends and Valorant. It's a very big thing with Riot that they've been doing, which I wonderful. I think that it's a wonderful program
Yeah.
that they're doing. But I guess they had specifically interviewed just trans women in this video. And the tweet that she responded with was more along the lines of, how are we going to let this continue if we're trying to get women into our spaces, without basically saying trans women shouldn't be allowed at all. And it just surprised me that after all of the backlash, and I thought that I had her tweet bookmarked, but it was actually the LCS that I had bookmarked. But after all of the backlash that she received because of her comments, I was very, very surprised to see it again. And this was definitely more pointing the fingers, like you said, because she was using this specific video. So it breaks my heart knowing that there were so many people that were being so positive about wanting to see an actual change in the community.
Yeah.
Just for it to not register. And I do understand that everybody has their feelings and opinions.
Yeah.
But to do it again in a public space after already receiving such backlash, and she got it again from people that are very well known in the industry, getting it again. At some point, you kind of need to take a step back and say, I probably shouldn't talk about this anymore.
Yeah, it's that if you've done it and the same thing's happening twice, that is the definition of insanity. Like, keep doing the same thing, expecting a same result. If you're getting the same result, doing the same thing, you probably shouldn't be doing it, and you need to take a step back and look at what's going on and why is this happening.
Yeah.
And I will say I didn't expect her to delete the tweet. More often than not, I'm someone who, like, even if you mess up, I don't think you should delete them, because it shows, like, you could use it as the ability to go, like, hey, this was me messing up, and I've recognized this, and here's me learning. She could have done an opportunity from that. Instead, as you've shown, she chose to just tunnel vision down that road. It's like, not a good idea.
The tweet that had gone along with this, I just found it, that it was, quote, there are fewer and fewer opportunities for biological women in the gaming scene. To all of the people who act like transgender women in women's competition is a non-issue, pay attention. So this was, end quote, by the way. So this was very much more of a, I'm pointing the finger at this point. And it was, and like you said, you know, leaving it up really did kind of make it seem like, okay, I did this thing. This is, I'm basically, you know, standing with my transgressions. I wasn't expecting it to happen again. And it's heartbreaking to see that.
That is heartbreaking. Because you've given yourself an opportunity to grow. Instead of growing, you're just like, I'm a tunnel vision and dig this hole deeper. And it's like, no.
Yep, exactly. But so comments like this and experiences like this, it's a lot of the main reason why I think transgender gamers are hesitant to grow in esports. And even in the streaming community, that they're, you know, you see more and more people with, you know, the VTuber avatars, rather than, you know, allowing themselves to be on camera to be their true selves. So what advice would you give as a content creator who does present as their true self? What advice would you give to someone who might have that interest, but they're afraid of the hate or the backlash?
No matter what, someone's going to hate or dislike you. You cannot stop that. You cannot prevent that. And people who get upset will use anything they can against you. If they're petty enough, they'll use anything against you. I beat someone in Siege live on stream. What they did the next week was repeatedly on every single one of my TikToks, Instagram photos, and everything. They went through all the past. They would comment how ugly I looked and how masculine I sound, everything like that. And they'll be all auto caught and deleted. And but he would go back every day for the next week, putting them back and stuff like that. And because he was so annoyed at losing to me. And they were just that petty, and they did it for a whole week. Thank God, like YouTube, Instagram all have actually pretty decent security systems where they're just like, oh, this person, no, bye. And just just get rid of it. But they were determined, everything like that. But you're gonna do that, and people are gonna do it. The problem with showing yourself is you're gonna feel scared. You're gonna feel anxious no matter what. Like that's why a lot of people are using VTube models because they realize I can show something which gives people the appearance of someone being there, but I can feel comfortable being safe. And if I'm not on
Hmm.
camera and everything like that, it's like one of the most. It's really hard for me to be on camera. Trying to be on camera more. But one thing that I've noticed is when I'm on camera, I get a lot more interaction and I get a lot more people shopping by. But it's not just because they can see a person. It's
Hmm.
because I am someone who talks with their hands, as you can see, but I
Yeah,
move a
I
lot
do
while
too.
gaming and I do a lot, and I get so engaged. It enables them to connect with me better. And
Hmm.
we humans, we are very, very image based, and like social based. We are a sheep culture. Like we don't mean to be. It's like, but if one person keeps doing stuff enough, everyone will follow. And so
Yeah.
if you see someone do stuff like so many people worried about moving around in the game, I move a lot. Like I'll jump around and dodge real life. And then people are like, yes, I do that too. And it makes people feel like they can connect with you. And so use the opportunity. Like, yes, it's scary, but at the same time, you can use this opportunity to connect and not feel alone yourself and help someone else not feel alone. So you can create a community based on connection and positivity. So it's
Yeah.
so scary using a camera. I can
Yeah.
identify like how terrifying it is because every time I hit that start stream button, like I'm very good at masking being autistic and growing up having to mask that. But I'm still terrified when I hit that button like, oh god, I'm on camera. What if someone says something wrong? What if I don't look feminine enough, everything like that. But like taking the leap of faith is sometimes
Hmm.
the hardest, most terrifying to do, but it's the best thing you can do. And if I can give any advice to everyone is like be willing to take the leap of faith. If it doesn't work out, yes, it hurts and stings, but that
Hmm.
doesn't mean that it's gonna be like that every time. And you could try differently. And if you need to just work up to it, use a VTuber model. Don't need to use a camera at all. You can be just as successful without a cam as you can with one.
Hmm.
Um, mm,
Perfect. So, for what it's worth, I think that you have done great. This has been an incredible discussion, and I'm so glad that you did this with me. And I think that you're beautiful, and I'm so glad that you do come on to camera because it just shows that there are people out there in the trans community who want to be strong for others that may not be able to be strong for themselves yet. So I think that
mm,
that's wonderful, and I just wanted to say that before we wrap up. Um, I
yep,
do have one more question. Do
yep.
you feel that the gaming community is moving forward in the right direction to be a safe place for everyone? Or do you feel that there are still miles to go before we hit that peak?
I feel we are. I feel like gaming's always been far more open than every other community, and I feel like we're. Sorry, I was looking up because I was thinking, but
No, you're fine.
um, we are very open and everything. But I think it's not that we have a lot to go. I think it's a different perspective of there are so many people with the interconnectivity of the internet, people not understanding or being and coming from areas in which it isn't who are part of the
Mhm.
gaming community. We're starting to see the different kinds of mentalities in the gaming community due to the internet start showing more. So
Mm.
all of a sudden, you're able to see things from a different. And so it's not that we need to make progress. It's that we need to learn that yes, we can game together, but we can also understand each other. We don't have to. We can game and have fun,
Yeah.
but we don't have to judge each other based on anything. Like we can, you're just someone. You can be a friend no matter who you are. And I think it's more of we have to learn to understand and more than we need to make progress because I think the gaming community is people who are very capable of doing all sorts of stuff, all silly
Mhm.
stuff, no matter what. And I think it's just sometimes people get overwhelmed with too much knowledge and stuff or too much
Mhm.
stuff going on. It's like you don't have to worry about like, oh, I'm playing with a trans person, or I'm playing with someone like this. Like
Yeah.
you're playing with someone who you have fun with. Just enjoy, and that's what you need to do. And it's just you need to take the time to real things. I think it's just more we need to take time to reel back and understand I'm just playing with someone who I have fun with. It doesn't matter if they're gay, straight, trans, cis. I
Mhm.
can just have fun with them and it's really cool. And so I don't think
Yeah.
it's more of we need to make progress. It's we need to understand and not allow ourselves to become overwhelmed with all the stuff that's in the world today.
I love that. I love that so much because it's true. I think that if we all take a step back and just understand each other, I think that the gaming community can go so far just beyond gaming.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I agree.
Wonderful. Alrighty. Well, so thank you so much, Janessa, for coming on to the show today. If people want to follow along on your journey with gaming, where can they find you?
You can find me at twitch.tv/LadyJanessa or on YouTube we're at LadyJanessa as well. Well, I also have a TikTok, LadyJanessa TV, and pretty much that's the main places you can find me.
Great. Wonderful. So thank you so much again for sharing your thoughts with us today. So coming up next is another member of the transgender community, but to give us the perspective from a trans male this time instead of a trans female. So we will be right back with the Spawn Room Podcast. Everyone to the Spawn Room Podcast, where we talk about all things esports and gaming. Again, I am your host, Rachel Olson Cooper. Many of you know me as Crunk or Crunk NWJ from the internet spaces. So again, our topic today is about how the transgender community navigates through the gaming and the esports world, a space that is really trying to grow when it comes to inclusion. And again, if anything that we talk about today makes anyone feel uncomfortable, please pause the video and take a step back. We champion mental health here, and I want everyone to feel that this is a safe space to discuss the issues at hand. So joining me today is Lucas Thompson. He is a transgender male content creator, and he's going to help us explore more of the transgender community and gaming. So welcome to the show, Lucas, and thank you very much for coming by.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Not a problem. So first, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit of what you're about.
I'm Lucas, and really not about much of anything. I'm a content creator, just recently switched back over to Twitch, but I focus more on YouTube, vlogs, and photography at the moment. So that's
cool.
Me too.
Well, yeah, I did see that you were doing some vlogs. Is that something a little bit newer that you were doing?
I've done it off and on. I'll quit, but that's been like a mental health thing, and ever since my dad passed away about a year ago, I've been doing what I can to make him proud. So it's kind of like my motivation now. So
yeah. Good. So gonna kind of step back a little bit. When did you start your gaming journey? And at the time that you had started your gaming journey, were you already identifying as male?
I was not. Actually, I started in October of 2017. I think I came out about 2 years ago, February 5th of 2021. Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. Because I've been on testosterone for 2.5 years now. So
okay,
cool.
So then, before you transitioned, what was the atmosphere that you found yourself in as a female playing games that tend to be very, very male dominated, rather? You know, I know that you play a lot of FPS shooter games, Call of Duty, things like that. So, what was your experience like as a female in that space?
It was not a good idea to speak, because the minute that they heard your voice, it was very sexual, a lot of sexual harassment comments, the typical things that you would expect, or they just say that you're bad at the game and you shouldn't be playing it. Back then, I was playing Rainbow Six Siege, which is a very, very toxic community.
Yeah.
And so typically in that game, they hear you talk, they say you're bad, and then they team kill you. So it was never fun, so I just chose not to speak in the game very often, and if I did, it would be typing in the chat or having my brother give call-outs for me. So.
Oh, wow. So your brother would sit there with you, like headphones on, and essentially do the call-outs for you?
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. And the part about the team killing blows my mind, because you would think, especially in a game like Rainbow Six Siege. So for those of you who don't know what Rainbow Six Siege is, it's a very tactical game. You have to depend on your teammates, and you want to stay alive. It's not like Call of Duty where it's just run and gun and you can kind of do your own thing. Like, you need to stay alive. So for them to turn around and to team kill you just because you're female blows my mind.
Yeah, and there'd be times where I'd be playing it and you'd hear another female on the team speak, and like just to listen to how they would bully them is insane. Like for a while, I would just mute my teammates and I would still give the call outs, just not.
Yeah.
I would mute them so I wouldn't have to deal with the repercussions or the bullying, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, so now that you are identifying as male, that prior toxicity that you found in the gaming, has that stopped? Or has that turned into like, the normal gaming stuff that you find whenever you're in, a lobby with like, the, hey man, you suck, get good, type of thing. Has it become less about who you are as a person and more about who you are as a gamer?
Yes, it has. I don't experience any issues anymore. And typically, if there's someone in there like cis female, I will defend them. Because I just think that it's wrong to bully in general. But
Yeah. Yeah.
but uh, I don't have any issues now, other than I mean, I'm funny enough. I'm back into Rainbow Six
Oh,
Siege,
geez.
so it's not. I don't. I still run into toxic people, but just like
Yeah.
Call of Duty, your normal toxic players that
Yeah.
just want to be trolls.
Right. So while I was doing some research on this topic in general, I found an interesting article that a lot of people used games to allow them to feel like their true selves. So specifically games where there's character creation involved. So like RPG games. There was even one that said that Roblox, helped them realize who they were to their true selves. So do you find that gaming helped with that transition to allow you to feel more like yourself?
Yes, I used to play GTA RP offline, and I would play a male character. I would use my grandpa or my dad's name just because back then I wasn't sure, or
Yeah.
wasn't concrete on whether or not this was me or not. But like I said, I've known since I was like 8 years old, so it's just
Mm.
been uh, understanding it, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, I used to role play as a male in a gang in the game. So that was always my way. And like like when I would play like NBA games, I would also,
Mhm.
because you could always play the WNBA, and
Yeah.
I used games to use male names or just my screen name.
Mhm.
Making sure it sounded masculine as well.
Okay. Yeah. So I want to talk about the tweet that kind of took the gaming community by storm last month.
Yeah.
I talked about this with my previous guest, LadyJanessa, but we are going to discuss it again. And so a cis female member of the Halo community, they were putting together a ladies Halo tournament in her Discord. It started to gain some traction, and so back on September the 12th, she tweeted, quote, "I am building out channels in my Discord for the ladies scrims on Saturday. I love and value all people, and as a Christian, I believe God created people in his image as male and female," and quote from Genesis. "Therefore, I will not be allowing trans players to participate," end quote. Now, this had people in an absolute uproar. It had, I think, like 4.2 million views on it by the time like the dust kind of settled a little bit. But the thing that had surprised me the most, knowing how toxic the gaming culture can be, as we just discussed, is that the comments were filled with "gaming is for everyone" or "Halo is for everyone" type responses. So what was your initial reaction as a trans male to this tweet?
At discrimination, I thought that it was a way for them to come out and bully, and exclude the people. Just because we're not cis does not mean that we are any less male or female, as this is cis community, cis
Mm-hmm.
females, cis males. And unfortunately, well, or fortunately, either way, cisgenders will never understand that, no matter
Mm-hmm.
what. Even if they are a part of the community, they still will never understand that or what we go through. And I also think I'm so tired of Christians using Bible verses as a way to disregard the LGBTQ community in general. And as a favorite verse that has become of mine is James 4:11. There is only one lawgiver and judge, he who is able to save and to destroy. But who are you to judge your neighbor? My favorite verse
Wow.
that I've been rereading the Bible over the last couple of months, and as somebody who's been going to a church, that the very first time that I sat in and listened to his sermon was preaching about a African American who came out non-binary in the 1800s. So before you
Wow.
preach the Bible, you should probably know it a little more and stop
Mhm.
using a book to first off, none of us are God, so we can't just read a book and speak for him. No one
Yeah.
can.
And I know a lot of people, personally, in my personal life who are a part of the LGBTQ community that had to step away from their faith because they felt like they were being bullied and disregarded and just being demeaned. Because, like you said, that they're just picking out the verses that they feel are opportune, if you
Mhm.
will. And it's unfortunate it's come to that, but I am glad to hear that you have found that space again that that you feel comfortable in, that you have found that a group of people who are okay with who you are truly as a person.
Yeah. And they show it and talk about it too, which is very unusual. I still
Yeah.
have my grandma and husband go and are still like, wow.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I think that if people in their 70s can change, so can people like that, whether you're in the gaming community or not.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So comments and experiences like this, or like the one in that tweet, they tend to be the reason why transgender gamers are hesitant to grow in esports and even in the streaming community. You see a lot more people now using the avatars, the VTuber avatars rather than showing their true selves because they're so afraid of things like this. And so what advice would you give to someone that you've been on now both sides? You've seen both sides. You had to take that break to kind of find yourself mentally again to be able to stream again. And is the last time I checked, I think that you do go on camera, correct?
I do, yes.
Yeah. So as someone who is now comfortable enough to be able to do that, what advice would you give someone that has that interest, but they're afraid of that hate or the backlash?
Ignore them. Because in the end, the only thing that matters is you, and the only person that should be judging you is you. And if you're happy with who you are, screw what everybody else has to say because their opinion matters just as much as the next. It doesn't.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's just my opinion on it. And if you need somebody to boost you up besides me, go check out Mama Todd on TikTok because she is great to the
Yeah.
LGBTQ community. That would be my only advice is don't worry about other people, but I mean, also make sure you're in a safe place where people accept you and don't bully you.
Exactly.
I've had a lot of experiences where people have misgendered me on purpose and they claim they don't mean
Mm.
to do it. So just make sure you're surrounding yourself by people that love you for you and not the people that you feel you have to be around because you don't
Yeah.
want to be alone.
Yeah. And that's good advice because gaming in a lot of cases, when you build up that community, it really can feel like a family, and you should be able to feel safe in the space that you're in
Exactly.
as a gamer. So yeah, it's really good advice.
Yeah, and as a
I-
streamer, I've had the people come in because I have, that my pronouns and that I am a,
mhm.
transgender male who come in and make the jokes, like, "Hey, you're a transformer, ha ha ha!" Like you're the first person to ever say that. And
Right.
instead of letting it get to me, instead I play into it
Mm,
and just laugh and say, "Ha ha, you're funny." You're not the first person to come in and say that, but I feel that it helps me because
mm,
eventually they're like, okay, these people aren't going to get offended and argue with me, and then they leave.
right. It breaks my heart to hear that.
Yeah,
It like not just like as a human being, obviously, it kind of hurts whenever you hear that kind of stuff
yeah,
happening. But then like being on the cis female side and getting it all the time, I've talked about a multitude of times some of the hate that I've gotten in games. Rust. That I don't know if you've ever heard that story, but we'll talk about that later. But it we should be able to navigate in the space whether you're a cis female or a part of the LGBTQ community, a part of the trans community. You should be able to navigate a space and feel safe in it. And it's just good advice to sometimes just ignore it. It's hard, but yeah,
yeah.
ignoring it sometimes be the best thing.
It's taken a long time for me to grow some thick skin, but
Yeah.
being online or, even gaming, even if you're not a streamer or an online, creator, you have to have thick skin. Otherwise, it's going to tear you apart in the first place. And don't let those people take away from who you are. Just continue going day by day, being the best version of yourself that you can be.
That's good
And if
advice.
the people that don't accept you, then they don't deserve a spot in your life in the first place. So
Exactly. So finally, overall, do you feel that gaming is moving in the right direction to be a safe space for everyone, or do you feel that there's still miles to go before we get to that peak?
I would say it's kind of half and half. Well, I don't know, because I haven't really experienced any gaming communities or game developers that have not, like, I think it was Hogwarts Legacy, for example, like logging on to the game and it asking me what my pronouns were and seeing that they, them was an option, like, blew my mind.
Yeah.
And seeing that a lot of games, I think that they're moving in the right direction, but I still think that there are miles and miles to go.
Yeah.
So,
I'm so glad that you brought up Hogwarts Legacy, because I completely forgot about that being a thing. Because like, even though I bought it, I still haven't played it yet. But there was so much backlash about that game because of everything that J.K. Rowling has turned into over the last few years. And I loved seeing the report that said that not only that they were including it, the they, them, but I think that there might have even been something in the game that referenced it too, if I remember correctly.
Yes, I think there was like a player or something that identifies with those pronouns.
Yeah. And I thought that was incredible for the developer to do that, to take themselves away from that backlash. Like, it's a part of this universe, and there's no way that we can really develop this type of game without being in this universe, but we don't stand for what it is that she stands for anymore. And I thought that was incredible.
Yeah. I thought that was great too. And I wasn't going to buy the game at first either. And then I saw the positive things. And I also saw, like, regardless of like her opinion, I know people don't want her to make money off of anything, but you don't want, don't let someone take away from the things that like help you. Like, some people in the LGBTQ community, the Harry Potter books have gotten them through some of the toughest days in their lives. And, just like the backlash with Jason Aldean and his wife a year or two ago, like, I don't let that stop me from enjoying his music sometimes, but I also don't listen to it as much either, because, I just say don't let the people that have their opinions, even if it is in a toxic way, take away, the things that you love and enjoy no matter what. Because, music is healing too, just as well as a book. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Lucas, for coming on to the show today. If people want to follow along on your journey with gaming, where can they find you?
Twitch or YouTube, Motivated Lucas. I guess Motivated Lucas on literally everything. So.
Okay. Perfect. Well, so thank you again, Lucas, for coming on. Also, thank you to LadyJanessa for coming on for the first segment. That is going to do it for the Spawn Room podcast. Make sure that you check out the website, thespawnroom.net, for all of my past articles and videos. You can also follow along at _Spawn Room on Twitter, and you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and sometimes Twitch at CrunkNWJ. So thank you again, Lucas, for your time. LadyJanessa earlier today for your time for the first segment. And then I will see you all next time on the Spawn Room podcast.